Well, what makes something a tale of our time is that it has a cultural impact. Either it's in response to some big shift in the culture or it brings people together and creates one on its own. I'd say for Barbie, it's a little bit of both.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tales of Our Time. This is a show where we discuss the stories that move us, what makes them so meaningful, and why others could or should find meaning in them as well. This is not a spoiler-free show, so bear that in mind as you continue listening. Especially today, we'll be covering something that is brand new and still in theaters, so you have been warned. I'm your host, Amanda Stevens, and here on this podcast, we tackle books, movies, comics, and more. Where there's a story, there is a reason to read or watch in today's case. Of course, I'm not alone. I'm joined by my good friend, Alyssa Kestrel.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to talk about Barbie.
Yeah. Actually, so we got onto this topic for the Adventure Zone episode, kind of by accident. We were just catching up. And when you told me how many times you had seen the movie, I was so excited to talk about it that I wanted you to come back on the show.
Yeah. I saw it the first time with my sister, and then I knew I needed to go see it again. And then after the second watch, I knew my nieces needed to see it, and so I brought them.
Yeah. So total, where are you at now?
Just three.
Just three.
Only three.
Just three. That's
so
fine.
Far.
Yeah, so far. We'll see. Is there anything you would like to say to introduce yourself besides, at this point, what feels like a Barbie expert in the movie?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if I'm a Barbie expert. I felt pretty neutral about Barbies growing up.
Same.
But like you said, my name is Alyssa Kestrel. I do have a bachelor's degree in philosophy. So if any credentials matter, I guess those would be the ones. So I guess I just, professional thinker about this kind of thing.
Yeah. This is kind of your steez.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. So, I mean, normally I would say, what story have you brought for us today? But we've already, the cat's so out of the bag that it's just running around the garden at this point. Today we're talking about the Barbie movie, directed by Greta Gerwig, that has been smashing through box offices. And I'm so excited. I don't think we've ever talked about something so contemporary on my show yet.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so thank you for that.
Yeah, Greta Gerwig. This is now the top grossing movie box office hit by a female director of all time. That is so exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for good reason.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, this is the final spoiler warning for everybody. If you haven't seen it, you're going to need to skip ahead. I would guess around 3 or 4 minutes. We'll see how it works. But Alyssa, so that we can discuss this fully and for people who I guess are not afraid of spoilers, would you mind giving us a summary of the Barbie movie?
Yes, those brave souls who don't care about spoilers. I will give you a summary.
We admire you. Or maybe you're like us. You've seen it.
Barbie. So Barbie is about, obviously, Barbie, but it's about all of the Barbies living their perfect life in Barbie land. And everything's perfect and happy, and there's nothing gross. They just live in the perfect world. Every day's a party, and one of these Barbies starts to have these big thoughts that don't really fit into the vibe of Barbie land. She starts to wonder about death. She starts to feel anxiety, and she starts to feel self-conscious.
Yeah.
And so she ends up, through the help of some weird Barbie who was played with too hard, she journeys to the real world because she learns that the child who's playing with her is having these thoughts and feelings, and that's what's causing her to feel them. And so she has to go to the real world to try to fix it. And so she journeys across the universe, and with some of her silly companions like Ken, what does he matter, right?
Certainly at
And
the start, right?
that that's an important theme too. And so
Huge
they
theme.
get to the real world. She meets her child, who is now an adult woman with her own child, and they
Hmm.
work out a bunch of issues together, and they end up traveling back to Barbie Land together, and just a whole bunch of shenanigans happens. Ken gets black pilled and turns Barbie Land into patriarchy.
For those of you
Um,
who do not know what black pilled means, it basically means that you accept a very difficult and toxic form of patriarchy. And that's what happened to Ken. He got drunk on the power of what the patriarchy could bring to Barbie Land. Please continue,
right.
Alyssa.
Yes, exactly. So he brings all of that back to Barbie Land. He changes how everything works, and it ends up being a story of how Barbie just kind of restores Barbie Land to its previous nature. And the ending is really interesting and kind of weird, where Barbie ends up becoming human, or maybe she
Hmm.
just finds out that she was human all along. And the what is it to be human? I guess it is to feel and
Yeah.
to drink sparkling water and to look into a real mirror and use
to
a
actually
real
have these
shower.
experiences, right? Well, and I guess also,
Yeah,
I think part of it too, like, to also have bad experiences sometimes, a surface level reading of that, like she had to have the bad experiences in order to appreciate like the moments of peace or beauty that she found instead of just kind of like living at that surface level party, which is also important because that's the idealism that we want.
yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I think that what she really realizes is that to be human is not just to be happy all the time, it's to experience sadness. There's a scene where she sits on a bench and she's
Hmm.
just kind of feeling empathetic for everyone who's experiencing life around her. And she goes from smiling to, sadness to seeing a couple fighting, and then
Hmm.
has this contemplative moment where she's thinking about all the different diversity of human experience.
Yeah.
And I really didn't expect that from a Barbie movie, okay?
Certainly
Nobody was
not.
prepared for this. Everyone was wearing pink. We were all excited, yelling, "Hey, Barbie," at each other. And then
Yep.
all of a sudden, we're considering what it means to be human and
Deep
what we're doing with
feelings.
our life.
A lot of deep
Hmm.
introspection, like really self-examination going on. Yeah, I like that's a pretty good summary, girl. Like it's there's a lot of shenanigans in there, and that's what makes it a fun movie. Um,
Hmm.
I guess could you tell us a little bit more about your first experience with the Barbie movie, like your first watch? Because I think you started to get into
Yeah.
it with like dressing up. I dressed up to go see it. We took pictures in
Yeah.
the big Barbie box. It was fun.
Oh, yeah. Everyone did.
You have to.
Yeah. The thing that I thought was so incredible, and one of the big reasons why I would definitely consider this to be a tale of our time,
Hmm.
is that everyone had this unspoken agreement to dress up, and everyone was
Hmm.
so excited to be there and so friendly to one another. It was like we were primed to hear this message about
Yeah.
how we're all human and we all have similar experiences, and it cultivated such a great sense of community there.
Hmm.
It's like people were talking about their favorite Barbies that they had when they were a kid, when they were standing in line for popcorn.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was great. And it's not, I think specifically not just a sense of community, it was specifically a sense of women supporting one another, which is such an important and sometimes counterculture thing to look at, because I
Yeah.
think oftentimes women are pit against each other, or we have to act less feminine in order to be taken seriously,
Hmm.
or push other women down because of their femininity.
Right.
I'm not like other girls. Yeah, I drink black coffee.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't wear
You got to
pink,
be tough.
you know?
Like to hop onto that, it became something that it was also like really inclusive in that, right? Whereas like let's support each other, like girls support girls, dress up, live your best
Hmm.
life, like look cute, fun, lean into being girly, and then also like everybody's welcome in the party. Like this is a party, we want people here.
Like you said, that everyone can be Barbie. Bring what you have to the party,
Hmm.
and you'll be accepted and lifted up and celebrated for your femininity in any way that you want to
Yeah,
express that.
it was lovely. So
Beautiful.
let's dig in a little deeper then. What made this movie so meaningful to you? The point that you went to go see it 3 times.
Yeah.
I'm jealous,
Yeah, and
frankly.
and yeah, I saw it 3 times, and there was something that happened in the first 5 minutes that made me have a really intense and emotional reaction that I was not expecting. And I'm not the type of person who likes to get emotional at movies,
Hmm.
especially in public.
Yeah.
I'll totally just like, oh, got something in my eye.
Yeah, yeah.
What's going on here? But
Hmm.
it was in the first scene, the first few scenes, lawyer Barbie is giving a powerful speech, and she says something along
Oh,
the lines of, I feel emotional about this, but I am able to hold emotion and logic at the same time, and that does not make me weaker. That makes me more powerful.
I remember that exact speech. I just got goosebumps. I think I also got
Yeah.
emotional at that point.
Yeah, I felt myself well up because I didn't realize that I needed to hear that, because it's true.
Yeah.
There's especially that was so meaningful to me because I work in an industry that is severely male dominated. I work with mostly men, and
Hmm.
it's construction.
Yeah.
So, um,
Spoiler, it's construction.
yeah, spoiler, it's construction. It's mostly men. So the fact that I didn't even fully realize that until she said it out loud was so important for me to hear. It's true. The men that I like the most are the ones who are able to feel and express empathy, and who utilize both more empathetic and more transactional forms of communication. Because really,
Hmm.
I think that feminine and masculine communication styles are learned,
Yeah.
where and women are taught to be more relational and to value empathy and supporting people and taking care of each other's emotions and including people. And men are more geared toward that transactional communication style, where they should be confident and direct and abrupt.
Hmm.
And I think it's so important to have both. And so
Yeah.
hearing Lawyer Barbie say that was, I just knew right off that I was going to love this movie.
Well, and you know
Everyone
what?
needs to hear that.
Yeah, and to build off of that point too, like I think there were a lot of moments where like the Barbie movie is very satirical, right? Which allows it
Mhm.
to say the quiet part out loud, like in that example. And it does a lot of that of just like saying things that I didn't know I needed to hear because of like my
Mhm.
experience in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So broadening that kind of spectrum or that question, I guess. Why do you think that this movie is a tale of our time?
Yeah. Well, I think that Barbie is a tale of our time because it brought people together. It
Hmm.
created a cultural shift, and it was partially in response to a cultural shift. The fact that it stated so many of these things that you and I related to so
Mm-hmm.
well, it did that for everyone. When I was in that theater, I could hear everyone having the same reactions,
Mm-hmm.
little gasps that they would make at certain lines, and I could tell that it was hitting home with everyone. And one of the things that I would push back on, some people say that it's only for women or that it was mainly for women. And I would say it was really important for women, but the Kens had a really important part too.
I think that you're right about that because what the movie does is it examines gender and also like the ways in
Mm-hmm.
which that colors how we relate to each other and examining behaviors that we have and why they hurt everybody. And I think
Yeah,
that if it makes you uncomfortable as a man or a woman, like it's done a good job. Plus the power
I
ballad is
agree.
also like fantastic. So where the Kens self-actualize, that was probably one of my
Uh,
favorite parts.
oh, the beach off.
The beach off, the power,
Yeah.
the Kenergy.
Yeah, that
And
was really cute. Yeah, I really loved I think that Barbie Land is it's an exaggeration, but it is kind of equal and opposite to the real world in the power
mm-hmm.
dynamic.
Yeah.
And that made me think, when Ken comes to the real world, and there's that just really, really charming moment where Ken, Ryan Gosling, is seeing
Mm-hmm.
like a man on a horse. Oh, we're on the money. And he
Yeah.
sees all of these men in positions of power being respected. He feels seen in a way that he never has before.
Yeah.
That was actually really touching. I was like, that
Yeah.
is a really good reason as to why um, representation is important. He
Yeah.
got to see himself. It's exactly the same way that Barbie did help girls when she was a doctor and a lawyer and doing all of
Mm-hmm.
these things. It was
Competently.
like, look, you can do any of these things. And so I think that the Kens in Barbie Land, and specifically the main Ryan Gosling Ken, having
Hmm.
that realization was a really interesting way to get men to empathize with what women have had to do,
Hmm.
because they got to see a man go through that same thing.
Yeah. I guess I'm just coming back to it. I feel like there's a lot in there, and I feel like it's a really good movie to sit down and kind of like question the ways in which it made you feel powerfully emotional, both good and
Mm,
bad, you know, because I
mm-hmm.
think there's a lot that you can learn about yourself and a lot that we can learn about our place today by like doing the same kind of self-examination that Barbie and Ken have to do in the movie. So
Yeah.
we are out of time or overtime. It's okay. This happens a lot. But I do want to ask you one more question. So to wrap up, if you could give the Barbie movie a single one phrase subtitle, what would it be?
Hmm. Okay. I would say we all need to just take a moment to walk in each other's shoes and make sure they're pink shoes.
So maybe take a moment to walk in each other's pink shoes.
Yeah, absolutely. Specifically pink Birkenstocks.
Pink Birkenstocks. Take a moment to walk in each other's pink Birkenstocks.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Alyssa, for joining me today. And thank you to everyone else for joining us today on Radio Taiwan International. This has been Tales of Our Time. I'm your host, Amanda Stevens, and I was joined today by my good friend, Alyssa Kestrel, all the way from the United States. So
Yeah.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah. So I hope you all enjoyed learning more about the Barbie movie. Take a moment to walk in each other's pink Birkenstocks. And we'll see you next time.